I guess this is why podcasting and stuff like this can be good, because sometimes I think we just need to talk. Like you and me have to just sit with each other and virtually cuddle and say, you know, I hear you, I feel you, I see you, and this is awful. I mean, I think there is something healing about. I say this all the time, that, you know, when we're going through something and we express it and then somebody tries to offer a solution, it's not particularly what we're asking for. Mm-hmm. What we're asking for is simply this: I understand. This is awful. I understand. And I love you. You know, I think there's more power in that than we give credit to. Howdy. Welcome to BonFire Talks with me, Mark Wahlberg. Thanks for joining me. I hope you're okay. A lot has gone on. I want to talk about it. Normally I'll, tell some jokes and have some fun and talk about light stuff today, and not so light. We are now in the wake of what has been a horrible, horrible tragedy in Los Angeles. These fires have been devastating. But what's more devastating to me is not the fires, but who we are being as humanity. First of all, hi, Kaylin.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
You know, I'm okay. Thank God, everything's okay. Our house was not really threatened, but the flames got to the point where I packed up, and had an escape plan and everything. But luckily, fire people got that knocked down. My brother-in-law's house was okay, but he had to move into our house for a few days. My niece's house in Eagle Rock was also in danger, so they lived with us for a while. So I've had a house full of people. It's been a lot.
Yeah. And
that's coming out of, we had a death in the family too. So good times, everybody.
Yeah.
But, this is lifing. I talk about that a lot, that life keeps lifing whether we like it or not, and that's what's been going on. What has been on my mind and what I want to talk about, Kaylin, I'd really like your feedback on this, some direction even, is that
hit me.
I'm concerned, dude. I'm concerned with who we're being as a people, as a humanity. We used to always say that when tragedy happens, we come together as a nation, as a people, and the best version of us shows up, right? And I don't know that that's the case right now. What has really got me upset is how quick we are to skip over the part where we come together and support one another in tragedy and go right to pointing fingers and blame and politics and all that stuff. Right. And that's got me really upset today, and I want to talk about it because I think there's something important to say here.
Before we even get to that, we should mention that there is a lot of good that people are doing out there. The donations.
I'm seeing it everywhere. As a matter of fact, yeah. I'm seeing, literally, I saw the fire department saying, don't bring us more stuff. We have all the stuff we need now. Thank you. So people have been doing that. So there is that. There are those of us who are in action and in service and helping. Where I get frustrated is our need to point a finger before we handle the business at hand. And it's not that there isn't blame to be placed, but I don't know if right now is the time to place blame, or more importantly, compare one tragedy to another. And what I'm speaking about is, my friends in South Carolina are posting a lot about, as we are dealing with these horrific fires here, how bad things are in Asheville, North Carolina. And they are. And I've given money, I've given support, I'm aware.
What's happening in
North
Carolina?
Had the hurricane that knocked out Asheville, and that was months and months ago, but people are still displaced. People are still, lives were lost, homes were destroyed, people are in the cold. It's not good, right? But two things can exist at the same time, and both are tragic. And yes, this fire did affect some people who are gazillionaires. And so it's hard to have sympathy for people who lost their house in the Palisades who have more money than we can ever imagine to have. But tragedy is still tragedy, and one does not trump the other. And I don't like who we're being in this, not so much with actual. Look, we can talk about Lahaina. They're still trying to rebuild. It's a horrible tragedy there. And you know what I was saying, we all kind of got together. My brother-in-law my cousin lost his house. And we all got together and had a dinner, Chinese food, just to be together. And everybody's throwing around what they've heard and who's to blame. And I think we will find that there is blame. I think we're going to find that there were things that could have been done differently. But I said at that dinner, and I'll say it today, that if there was a different mayor who did everything that we're saying this mayor didn't do, we'd be pointing the finger at that mayor saying they didn't do it right.
Right.
Here's my take. What happened was a tragedy. It could have been mitigated a little bit if we had looked at that these winds were going to come and the possibility was greater and we could have evacuated or done things differently. Monday morning quarterback, yes, we could have someone could have reacted differently and it could have been better. What I'm most concerned about is how quick we are as people to immediately post and talk about half-baked misinformation. And my feeling on that is I don't know what's true yet. I don't know what could have been done differently. I don't know who's to blame. But I do know that this is not the time for that yet.
Right. Yeah.
And the way I like to look at it is rather than pointing blame, the phrase I'm saying is, posting what you think is information is not helping anyone. Blame doesn't help anyone in this crisis. Mm-hmm. And yet there's a human condition, Kaylin, where we in crisis have a need to place blame on something outside of ourselves that caused something that we can feel better about it because someone else fucked up. So there's all this information about how our mayor cut funds and hydrants are empty and all this stuff. And some of this is true, I'm sure. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've done research and I know. What I do know is that fire hydrants are meant to put out a fire at a home. Mm-hmm. What happened was bigger than any preparation could have done. And the loss of property, regardless of how well those people will rebound, is still a tragedy. And that's where I feel we need to come together. And my concern is I wonder if we're losing the part of us that I fear that we're losing the part of us that comes together in tragedy first, right?
Yeah. And
deals with people's pain first, and then, rather than blame, assess what we as a society or community could have done differently, correct that through systems we are going to now evaluate and change. Maybe that will include voting people out, voting people in, stuff like that. Yeah, all of that. All of that is legit. But right now, when people, whether you have sympathy for them or not, have great loss of life, of property, of memories and all that, is this the time where we need to say, you did this, you did this, you did this, it should have been different. And then more importantly, saying things that you don't know are true, right? So like a lot of people are talking about how the budget got cut for fire in our area.
Yeah.
But when you really look at those numbers, and we're looking at a budget for fire in Los Angeles that's in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and if it's true that $17 million of that budget was cut, if we had, even the fire chief said, if we had that $17 million, this tragedy would still have happened. If the fire trucks that people say are out of service were in service, we still would have been battling this blaze, maybe a little better, but we still would have lost most of what we've lost. And also remember, folks, that the people in Altadena and that area of the Eaton fire, not necessarily the Palisades fire, aren't particularly rich people. So
we were talking about this a bit before the show.
Right.
What happened is a tragedy. And I was telling you that Pacific Palisades area, all those people, they're very well off. And what happened to them, it is a tragedy. But I have clients in that Altadena area who lost their homes. And I go to that neighborhood every single week to work, and I see those people, and I find myself feeling more sympathy for those people than I do the Pacific Palisades, even though it is a tragedy, and it is, but I do find myself feeling, and maybe it's because I'm going there every week and I'm seeing that community, and now it's gone. The whole thing's gone. And I think
that's legit. I think those celebrities and millionaires and gazillionaires who lost their homes are going to be okay. It's still a tragedy.
Yeah.
The people in Asheville, so many of them are poor. Asheville, North Carolina. I mean, this was a tragedy with the hurricane that happened a long time ago, not that long ago, but they're still suffering and in pain. But when we say, in the wake of, while we're still burning, we say, well, what about Asheville, or what about Lahaina, or what about this? Yes, and yes, and yes. Right? I sent money to Lahaina. I sent money to Asheville, and I will do what I can to help the people here. But it's still a tragedy. And I feel like we need to slow our roll a little bit and lean into compassion before we lean into blame. In general, I feel like we are losing sight of our humanity to some degree, people. I feel like a correction needs to happen, not in systems of how we fight against what I am afraid will be a new normal for us, but in how we deal with each other in tragedy, with compassion and a slower pace of understanding, because it's just not helping. The rage, I understand the rage. Whenever there's a tragedy, there's rage. There's, why did this happen to these people, or, who could have made this better? But the fact is, what happened. And right now it's time to help those who need help and rebuild what needs to be rebuilt. And that doesn't mean we forget those who are still suffering from things that have happened in the recent past. But it then made me start thinking about how we react to so many things, like the things that disturb me, like when you see like a fight break out. And instead of people doing what when I was a kid, people would do, which is jump in and break up the fight, we record it.
Right.
World Star.
Yeah.
It's not a good look for us. The victim, the lusting for the tragedy and the comparing someone else's loss to somebody else's loss of who's worse doesn't serve anyone.
It's partly like human nature, though, in a way.
Well,
there's an aspect of it that's
yes,
like,
it is.
when it's to the people that were affected and even the people that weren't affected, you want to find blame. You want to blame someone, so you can put that energy there. You can't just say like, oh, this is how the world is. The world's going to keep worlding. That you need to find someone to put blame. I'm saying there's a human nature aspect to that.
100%. It's 100% human nature when anything happens, sickness, anything, we go, why did this happen? And who can I yell at and feel better, because at least I can do that. But it's not in my nature to do that. I don't know why, but that's not my nature. It's like mine goes quicker into accepting this happen and how do we just, move forward. And then after I've swept up the ashes, to then look at how do we avoid this and who can we hold accountable and those things that, need to happen. But I'm just concerned, Kaylin, that we are losing what makes, especially in America, what has always made us special is this coming together across our differences. How we, even when we are vehemently opposed, that we come together in tragedy. And I'm not so sure I'm seeing that right now at the level I had expected. And it's really disheartening from our leaders, saying things that they're saying, and from people polarizing immediately and pointing fingers. It's just not helpful. It's not healthy. And I'm heavy-hearted about it. And I also feel so helpless. I'm sure you feel helpless too. And people are doing stuff. People are opening their homes. They're giving money. They're giving food and shelter to those who need it. But look, it's just a tragedy.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into climate change or this, that, and the other. But when people say, look, this happens every year, we should know by now. We don't have 90-mile-an-hour winds every year. We may now have that more regularly.
Yeah.
But my heart hurts, Kalen. And
right.
I really, as I sat here today thinking about what to talk about, I don't have any answers. And, I'm just looking at you, my friend, and I'm kind of searching for any comfort. We're all searching for some sort of comfort.
Well, I don't think anyone has any answers, and that goes back to blaming somebody, because if you can say it was your fault, then you can have an answer. Okay, you need to go, and we need to get someone else in there to fix this. So that's kind of an answer, is to blame, to find the blame, point it at someone. That's people's answer to what... They don't have an answer, so they're trying to find one by blaming.
And I guess what's clear to me is that answer, even if it's legit, doesn't fix the problem.
They're hoping it will.
Well, it can't fix what happened.
Yeah, right.
What happened. It's not going to. But if you blame someone, it's not going to go retroactively and go, now that we've blamed you, we can rebuild that house.
Right.
Right. And so I guess it's just got me really in my feelings and looking at who do I want to be? Like, who do I want to be in this? And so what I'm really spending my energy trying to be in all of this is compassionate.
Yeah.
And, sensitive to the pain that people are feeling and trying to somehow offer some sort of comfort to those who need it. And then we'll do our best to figure out how to avoid this in the future. Mm-hmm. The stories are too many. Somebody posted, let me know that you're okay, and do you know anybody who has been affected by this fire? And I said, most of us could tell you 6 people who lost their homes.
Yeah.
Most of us can tell you 6 people at least who've lost everything in these fires. And, I guess it's different when it happens in your backyard, and we're in it. And
yeah, because I live down in Long Beach, and if it weren't for the news or social media, I wouldn't have even known that it was happening at all.
And I get the inherent resentment one can have when something happens to people who have all the money in the world, who are living this lavish lifestyle in this beautiful, one of the most prestigious areas in the world, that we're a little less compassionate for them. Mm-hmm. I get it. And pointing a finger at who cares about celebrities. Okay, I get that celebrity doesn't matter. But when those same celebrities write $1 million check for somebody else's tragedy, you take the money.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know what? I don't even know where I'm going with this, Kalen. I just feel like everything in this world, we get to talk about it. We just get to talk about it and see if we can somehow find some peace. And one of the things I talk about a lot on this podcast as it relates to emotional intelligence is acceptance. And it's a really hard thing for us. It's not our natural nature. It's not our natural nature to take a hit to the face and just accept that happened rather than going, why did this happen? Who can I blame? And who can I punish? Because the punishment feels better to us, but it doesn't solve much of anything.
Right.
And so I'm just kind of like, I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss for how to what do I do? What can I do to help? So what you can do is give if you got and make room for those who need help. And I think a lot of you are doing that, and I'm doing that, and we're all doing it. But I just want us to, those of you listening, to take a second in your life and kind of look at where you put your energy, and is it compassionate, and is it helping? Like, is what you're saying and doing helping rather than commiserating? And there's a place for commiseration. I mean, I get it, but right now, I just don't know if that's the best use of our energy. I think the best use of our energy is to hold the people that need to be held and clothe the people that need to be clothed, and mop up what needs to be mopped up. And then later we'll look at it and go, wow, man, we could have probably avoided this. And when these Santa Ana winds happen next year, or when the hurricane season happens next year, what can we do differently? But the biggest evil I think we're suffering in our nation and in our world is misinformation being thrown out carelessly to the world. And I think I'm guilty of it, and I think we're all guilty of it, that, you'll see a TikTok or an Instagram post and you think that's fact, and then you report it and say, didn't you hear that this happened and this happened? And maybe they're true, right? But probably not. And I just wish I could say to everybody, stop doing it for a minute. Stop saying things you don't know are actually fact, right? Stop saying it. It's not helping anyone. Help me, Kaylin. I really don't know what to say here. I'm just sitting here in this chair feeling very small and feeling very
Well, it's even
helpless.
tougher by the fact that it's still going on. It's still happening.
Yeah, we're not
now.
done.
Yeah, no, it's not. We're not even through it yet. It's still
No.
and I mean, I think that they've been able to protect the neighborhoods, but yeah, I mean, there's at least 2 still I don't know how many.
Eden Fire is burning, but mostly contained, and the Palisades Fire is still burning, but like maybe 20% contained. I'm not really sure. Again, this is misinformation. I don't know. But
once the first day was done and all that destruction happened, they did a really, really good job with some of the other ones that broke out. I was watching that one that happened up here in Studio City breakout, and I watched them fight that fire in real time. They put it out in like an hour.
I know. That's
Another
the one that I saw, and I'm like, we're in trouble. This is not super close.
That's right when it was all going down, and that fire was very close to the studio here. And I was watching that fire going, oh, this is gonna, what just happened is gonna happen again. It's gonna spread. It's gonna, destroy the Studio City area. And they were able to stomp that one out too. My dad lives over in Woodland Hills, close to where the Hidden Hills fire broke out. Again, I thought that thing is going to burn all the way through Hidden Hills over the mountains, but they were able to stomp that out. So
let's talk about a couple things. It's like, so this information that's being bantied about how reservoirs are empty and fire hydrants aren't working and things like that. When you fight fires of this nature, you don't fight them with fire hydrants.
Right.
They can help, and we use them, but they're not meant for that. They're meant for when your house is on fire on your block and you're the only one, then 4 or 5 engines show up, and that fire hydrant is used to put out your one fire.
That was the Studio City fire. That one that happened up in the residential neighborhood. They used that. Yeah.
Right. But when it's
burning over the
miles, it has to be done by air support, and there's no shortage of water for those. Those planes and helicopters have places to get the water, and they're getting it and doing what they can. Right? Could there be more? I'm sure there could be. Are there planes and trucks out of service or decommissioned that would have been helpful? I'm sure. But I don't think it would have stopped this.
Right.
And as I said before, and I think this is true, no matter who was running the city, no matter what they could have done differently, this tragedy would have happened. Maybe not to the same extent, but the speed at which things went down in the Palisades, the speed at which it happened was, I think, something like 500 yards a minute. It was, I know my cousin called me and FaceTimed me and said, wow, these fires are going crazy. And he showed me his backyard, like what he could see. And I said to him, pack up and go now. Mm-hmm. And he did. And he got out. And a half an hour later, those cars were stuck on Sunset Boulevard. And they couldn't move. Mm-hmm. It all happened. It was bigger than all of us. It was bigger than any politician could have handled differently.
Well, when they were happening, that first day, they couldn't fly any of those helicopters.
That's right. It was planes. 80-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, and they couldn't see anything. So,
right.
If you're not going to stomp that fire out without air support.
Right. If you had 50 more planes, you couldn't have done it.
Yeah, they couldn't fly.
And then there's things like, again, the blame that gets pointed. I remember when the Asheville thing happened and the president gave $750 to everybody right off the bat, and people are going, $750? The facts are that was a check you got immediately to buy groceries. That's it. And FEMA and insurance and whatever aid we're going to give is coming. But right now, go buy yourself some groceries, right?
Yeah.
But the misinformation is that's all that people got. And yes, when you hear, I lost my house, I'm homeless, people died, and you sent me $750, that sounds like a ridiculous number. But when you really look at the facts of that wasn't that. That was the first payment right away. Here's something right now so you can just get a hotel room and buy some food today.
Yeah.
Right? And so that need to blame makes us obfuscate. I hope I'm using that correctly.
Don't ask me.
Maybe I should just avoid words I don't really know. Makes us not view the whole picture. With compassion that even people you disagree with are doing the best they can, even if they fail. And I guess the thing that I'm really stuck on is what you're saying and reporting and reposting helping anyone? Is that information in this moment helpful other than making you angry? I don't think it is. I just don't think it's helpful.
I think that it can be both. I mean, obviously not with the misinformation that people grab onto and use to blame and have anger towards, but there's a lot of other information people are posting that is helping.
Of course.
So it's like it's both, right? That's social media. It's like it's good and it's bad. And it's just the two of them just intertwined together, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great information going out. There's a lot of places to donate. I have a dear friend, Natalie Bruce, who is my makeup artist on my show, who lives in Hawaii, and she has a business, and she's donating 100% of her proceeds, and I reposted it. So those kind of things,
right.
I'm all for that. I love that part, and I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm just really hung up on how quickly we jump to a darker way of being, and I'm just kind of begging us all to slow our roll a little bit. And, we had a death in the family
mm-hmm.
a week ago. Tragic. And we could sit and go, if we had taken quicker action, she might have lived longer, or if the insurance company said, blah, 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 we might have been able to da-da-da. It's not going to bring her back. And even if those things we're complaining about had happened, it wouldn't have made her healthy. And talking about what didn't happen doesn't make my relatives feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's what I'm getting at, is that talking about the failures that happened isn't helping this current day today. It will be important to look at. This is what I say, is like blame is one thing, assessment is a difference. Assessment of what we could have done differently, that Monday morning quarterbacking, that's valuable. There's a place for it, and it's time, and we will. I just think the throwing around half-baked, and more importantly, the conspiracies that this was some nefarious plot to grab land and stuff like that. Maybe that's true. I'm not a big believer in conspiracy. I'm not a big believer that we, from a systems standpoint, are able to coordinate at the level that a conspiracy needs to exist. So I don't really buy any of that. And I also think that's a distraction back into that pattern of looking to blame someone and all of that. I'm just heartbroken. I guess what I'm saying is I'm heartbroken, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to heal. And I guess my natural nature in life is to search for healing, and I don't have any answers. I don't think anybody does.
All right.
Except to accept grief as part of this journey, that shit is going to happen to us. And at times we will be the victim of somebody else's mistakes. And that's also part of it. I'm looking at you to give me comfort somehow.
This time, Mark, I don't really have much answers either, sadly.
Yeah. I guess this is why podcasting and stuff like this can be good, because sometimes I think we just need to talk. Like you and me have to just sit with each other and virtually cuddle and say, I hear you, I feel you, I see you, and this is awful. I mean, I think there is something healing about. I say this all the time, that when we're going through something and we express it, and then somebody tries to offer a solution, it's not particularly what we're asking for. Mm-hmm. What we're asking for is simply this: I understand. This is awful. I understand, and I love you. I think there's more power in that than we give credit to. And I'm hearing myself talk and hearing what someone might say is that I'm a Pollyanna once again, like I'm always this idealist and I'm always like, that guy. And I'm looking at it, but it just doesn't feel right to me. What feels right to me is not to Monday morning quarterback this thing and just do what we can to pick up and keep moving. It's like when my dear friends were going through it in Hawaii, when the Lahaina fire happened, there's a lot of things that could have been different. They could have cut the grid. They could have realized that the wind was coming and cut the electrical grid. And maybe this was done by something else. But the facts remain that there are people I know who are lost their life and were displaced. And a place that was historic and important to my family in Hawaii is gone. And I just don't think the pointing of fingers is bringing it back. It's just adding to the blister.
Well, I think there's some worry too that what happened in Hawaii was very tragic. And since it happened, I'm not sure what they've really done about. I mean, it's been over a year now, and it doesn't seem like they're really doing anything else. And I think people are worried that we're going to accept that it's okay for this tragedy to happen and then just go, oh, it happened and we're not going to fix this like they're doing with Hawaii.
And then there's this, which is that it seems like tragedies are happening quicker and our focus is quick. We are, oh my God, this happened. Let's all help. And then something else happens and we're like, oh yeah, well that's done. Let's go to this one. And then, so I think there is legitimacy to those people who are talking about Asheville right now in the wake of what's going on here, because there's still pain there and there's still work to be done. And now no one's going to pay attention because there's a new thing to worry about.
It would be easier if we knew that after these terrible things happened, they got on it and they started fixing it and they did more than just that initial effort.
Crisis management.
But because
Yeah.
they're not fixing Hawaii and they're not fixing Asheville, it's like, okay, well, now we're going to get mad and start blaming people
Right.
again. So,
And you know what? I think I need to back down from my initial take on this a little bit and be, if I'm going to sit here and sit on this orange throne and talk about you need to be more compassionate, I also need to be compassionate to the need to find blame and point a finger. There's a need there. It is somehow comforting, I guess. So I think I also need to check myself and go, all right, I get it. You know, don't point a finger at the people pointing a finger so hard, maybe.
Right.
You know, that we are imperfect. And I think one of the things that I read in a book about narcissism and self-obsession is that the manifestation of that is when you believe you are bigger than the world, that you're in charge of more. And that's like where things like suicide and stuff show up, is that when things get so twisted that you think that you're the cause of all the stuff and the only answer is for you to, you know, harm yourself, is the upside downness of the situation, when in fact the thing that's hard for us as humans to get our heads around is there are things out of our control. As a matter of fact, almost everything is out of our control. That we are passengers on a big ball in the galaxy traveling, you know, so fast, and you just can't protect yourself. You can't. You don't have any control, and that feels really unnerving. And when things like this happen, the reminder that the veil being lifted off of the delusion that we're okay is scary.
Right.
When we're reminded that at any given moment, life can just snatch all that you think you have away from you, because you don't have anything. You borrow everything. You use it for now and you don't own anything. That's, you know, the basic philosophy is that, you know, you don't have any control. And it's scary as fuck. I don't know, dude. I don't even know. I don't know what to do. I guess maybe what we do is realize there's power in, you can't fix the problem, but maybe you can help one person.
Yeah.
Maybe you can help one person. And when you're overwhelmed at the size of a tragedy or the size of your personal problem, you know, it doesn't seem like helping one thing is going to make a dent in the problem. But in fact, it's the only thing you can do, and it does help. You know, I can remember counseling a kid that I took under my wing years and years ago who was homeless. And I said, you just need to do, if you can be sober today and if you can show up to a job today, that's what to do. He says, but if I don't handle this right now, they're going to take away my kid, and then I can't do this and I can't do that. And I said, those things are probably going to happen anyway. So do one thing. I said, if you have a list of 10 things that are a problem, you can't do all 10 things. Do the first one. And then step 2 and step 3 of that 10-step problem probably will go away. Then you do 4. And then 5 and 6 might go away. So I think maybe that's what I need to sit with today, is that rather than looking at all of the pain, the size of the problem, I can't address. But I can help one person, and that's not insignificant. I don't know, Kalen. So
Just try and help one person.
do what you can, guys. And then forgive yourself for not doing everything. And if you only have this much energy, maybe don't spend so much creating more strife by shouting to no one about things you can't change. It's just not helpful. So for me today, what I'm going to do is, in everything that I do, is I'm going to ask myself, is my energy helpful to others? Are my actions helpful to anyone? And one bird at a time, one bird at a time is the best we can do to soldier on. Yeah, kind of a downer today. And I like to be the guy that brings hope in darkness. I don't have a lot of words for it today, except that rather than looking at the things that I've been focusing on, I'm realizing in my words, focusing on the things that are being done wrong, I want to maybe do like you did, Kaylin, and remember the people who are doing things that are great. Be grateful for that. Gratitude is a good antidote to how we're feeling. Action is a good antidote to how we're feeling. Prayer for some works. It certainly works for me. And, see if there's the smallest amount of help you can give. Selfless help, not opinion, not what you think should have happened, but what can I actually be proactive in actually providing some help? The energy I have focused on helping someone who needs help is divine and not insignificant. I love you guys. I feel, for those of you who are in pain, you can see that I'm feeling it. On my TV show, and people come to me and they're talking about relationship problems, I seem to have an answer a lot of the times. It comes naturally to me. I feel like I can say something. Today, I don't have anything I can say that I think is wise. But it's helpful for me to say things out of my face, just to say them out, to say words out, and then somehow that opens a valve and relaxes. So maybe there's another thing we can do, is we can just listen. Maybe we can just listen. It's like when you're sick and you got the flu and your mom's giving you the medicine and she's put the blanket on you and she's rubbed Vicks on your chest and all that, but you still feel like shit. What does she do? She holds you. She holds you and says you'll be okay. Maybe that's what we need to do right now. Thanks for listening. I can tell you that I don't need anything. So I'm going to see what I can do to help. And I'm going to ask you guys to help. Obviously, there's plenty of resources. Plenty of places where you can give money, goods, spend your efforts. And I ask all of you to do all those things. I know you can find them. I'm not going to sit here and put up a website of the Red Cross and things that you already know. But maybe just from a humanity standpoint, let's just slow our roll a little bit. Let's be a little bit less blamey and a little bit more just accepting that this is tragic and compassionate. Let's just be a little compassionate right now, everybody, and hold each other close. Okay. Next time I see you, we'll tell jokes and we'll talk about reality TV or something and take our minds off of things we can't solve. Because, we have to worry about Haktua Girl and how she is. That's so much more important. I love you guys. Kaylin, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, you're of service to me all the time, so thank you for that. All right, you guys, that's it. I'll talk to you soon.